Eddie, obviously we know who you want to come through and win this fight. But what I want to know, and I'm sure what the people want to know out there, is how this all came together, and finally, after sort of years of waiting, we get the big match, we get the 50-50 duel, it's on. How tough was that?
Yeah, the fight's been brewing for 4 years, and I think when I used to represent Carl, we were pushing for the fight so hard, but they were British and European champions at the time, Commonwealth champions, got Quigg, Carl Frampton as well. But when you look back, I was so desperate to make the fight at the time, and everyone kept saying, no, wait till they're both world champions. And to be honest with you, I looked at Scott Quigg and I thought, I'm not sure he's going to go on and win a world title. I've got this kid here, Carl Frampton. We're selling out this Odyssey Arena. Look at the crowd, they're going mad for him. Scott Quigg can't get a fight. He's got no promoter. He looks like a lost soul. We beat him. But what happened after that is myself and Barry McGuigan had a little conversation. It didn't go down too well, and we parted ways. And then I started talking to Scott Quigg. The night that Kiko Martinez Carl Frampton beat Kiko Martinez, I ended up in Subway with Scott Quigg. Because that night, there's a very famous interview where I say, Scott Quigg needs Carl Frampton, blah, 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 blah. And I looked up and Scott Quigg was 10 yards away, and he was looking at me with daggers. And I thought, I better go and buy him a Subway. So we went back to the hotel, and I bought him a Subway, and I sat down with him. And he was a really endearing man. And like Johnny goes back to about his life, I mean, you can't say that Scott Quigg doesn't have a life, because Scott Quigg is so happy in his life with what he does. But really, to the man on the street, Scott Quigg doesn't have a life. And he said something fascinating in the media, at the media lunch, which was, people talk about sacrifices they make. I don't make any sacrifices, because I love what I do. The ex-fighters on this table, which is everyone, although Croller's active, but apart from you and me, Darren Barker, probably the greatest example of someone that couldn't stand the gym and couldn't stand the camps. Sorry, Darren, but true story. But when Scott Quigg says to you, he says, there is nothing more I love than my alarm clock going off in the morning to go and do my sprints.
Any fight to me though, when I was boxing, when I was training, I couldn't stand training. And the reason being is because I felt sick because I trained that hard, and it just surprises me that someone can enjoy feeling the way I did. It was like training for a hangover. It was that bad. It felt sick. I mean, I don't know if he's just saying it because I just don't truly believe anyone, if you're training that hard, can enjoy doing it. You can't enjoy feeling like that. But so unless you're not training.
Well, maybe he's just convinced himself that he loves it, but he definitely does love it. And that's the strange thing. And the more I got to know him, and I think Scott Quigg is a different fighter now than he was to when he boxed Salinas. He's come away, he's not an extrovert. He doesn't like public speaking. He's uncomfortable up there at press conferences, and sometimes people say, oh, he looks a bit lost. He just doesn't like to talk. But he's grown as a person and a fighter, even since the Salinas victory. Wins against Silva, lower level opposition, Jamoy, Munyai was a good win, and then the acid test against Kiko Martinez. But the reason I fancy Scott Quigg to win so much is when you're around him, and Crawler will know this more than anyone, you just look at him and I looked at him today, I thought, you're not going to be denied here. I can see it in your eyes. And listen, I know it's a 50-50 fight, anything can happen, but my gut tells me he's not going to take no for an answer. And I think he's going to be very dangerous, and I think he's going to be clinical and brutal in this fight. And listen, for British boxing, it's fantastic. Two great guys, two wonderful fighters, and Anthony was right. The division will never see a payday like this before. And I know fans aren't bothered about paydays, but I am, because it's my job and my obligation to secure these people the paydays that when they walk away from the sport, they can just go out and watch Chelsea and get drunk all the time.